Hey, folks, welcome back to the Catholic Coaching Podcast. We are here with the beloved Father Greg Pine, OP. Father Greg and I go way back, actually. My godparents are his parents, and so we grew up together. So very exciting to have you on here, Father Greg. And you got a book that's coming out, Prudence, Choose Confidently, Live Boldly. You are here to plug your book. Let's just get that out of the way right up front. We love the opportunity to help you plug this book. It's like, okay, you're reaching. So we want to hear a whole lot about that, but we're going to be talking virtue across the board here today, specifically for cardinal virtues. And we're stoked to have you on here, man.
Hey, thanks for having me. I am pleased.
Can you tell us a little bit about yourself, where people can find you if they haven't heard of you yet? They're living under probably some dumb rock somewhere.
Yeah, Greg's been on Pints with Aquinas. You probably recognize him from that. That's kind of one of your big things. Godsplaining. I love Godsplaining. I give Godsplaining podcasts to a lot of friends that have very practical questions about the faith, but perhaps are just like they're just intellectually lazy, right? And so they just want to say, this is the truth over here. And it's like, let's bring a little bit of reason into this. You guys do that so well. The Aquinas 101 series that you're a part of as well, that's on YouTube, is phenomenal. And I love the little animations that you guys come up with on
For
that.
sure.
Yeah,
those are great.
Yeah.
I think my biggest claim to fame, though, is the auxiliary role that I played in the Ingold Pine family home video series, which was launched in 1991. I think I appeared in a tutu in one at the age of 2, which I would say was a high point in my life. And then I think
come up in your evaluation for the seminary, huh?
Yeah, exactly.
1991, you wore tutu. Cross-dressing doesn't bode well for priests.
Exactly. It's all right, though. We made it work. So in addition to those things, what else am I doing? I am a doctoral student at the University of Freiburg in Switzerland, where I'm writing about Jesus. When people ask me, like, what's your doctorate about? It's like when people ask you where you're from. If that person's from Europe, I say, like, I'm from New York City. If that person is like familiar with the United States, I'm like, I'm from Philadelphia. They're like, cool. If that person's from the United States, I'm like, across the river from Trenton. They're like, nice. And then if people are from PA, I'm from like Bucks County, Newtown. I once actually hitchhiked in North Carolina with a family who was from the next town over. And the reason I knew that they were from the next town over is the way they talked. They're like, oh yeah, we were just going down the road. And I was like, oh, did you just say you were just going down the road? Because I think we're from the same region. But so I'm writing about Jesus, and I'm specifically writing about the way that Jesus causes things in our interior lives, not just by saying like, hey, you might prayerfully consider this as an option for your future, but like, don't worry if not, because I'll just be over here on the cross. But in the sense that like Jesus is actually giving us those things in a way that's manifest, like knowable, and also that's efficacious, which is to say like it causes a change. So of all the things that I'm thinking about these days, that's the biggest thing, which is great.
Wow. That is so cool to dive into. I mean, like, and we are just so grateful that you are diving into it and then synthesizing that brilliance down
and not us,
to the rest of us simpletons out there.
Let us dive together.
Father Greg, it's been fun to be able to lean on you with some of this, because we like to call ourselves Peeping Thomas.
Peepers of Peeping Thomas.
Yeah, like peepers, even peepers of Peeping Thomas. Like we're kind of like peeking on Scott Hahn and like Father Chad Reberger, and we're just like, oh man, look, what are they doing? But we love what we perceive, we love what we pick up on, and we find it so supremely practical. Similar to the way that St. Paul is so supremely practical in how we live out the gospel messages. I think that what St. Thomas Aquinas has done so well is made cultivating an interior life supremely practical, which is really our mission at Metanoia Catholic. We want to help our clients, our listeners, become students of their interior life, because it's how we live. We live from that interior life outward. The body makes visible the invisible reality, the interior life, as JP2 says in his Theology of the Body. And so these elements of these virtues that are really cultivated interiorly, but exteriorly manifested, it's 100% what we do. And we love just more tools to give our audience to make it super practical.
Yeah.
It is for this that I've come into the world.
Yes, that's nice. Nice. Okay, so could you give us like a brief just breakdown of what the virtues are. And we're going to time you on this.
Okay.
No, I'm just kidding.
Do you want it 1 minute or 2 minutes or 3 minutes or?
Let's go for 2.
Yeah, let's go for
2 minutes.
What are the virtues and why does somebody want them?
Great question.
Right? What's in it for them?
Basically, God wants to transform you whole and entire. So he doesn't just want to say like, all right, here's a little grace bucket. If your mother-in-law becomes frustrating, you just take a little, like dipper, put it in the grace bucket, fill up a little, like, whatever, 2 teaspoon thing, and then just take a shot of that and then it'll be fine. He's like, no. I want you to be swimming in the grace bucket such that the grace bucket, the contents of the grace bucket suffuse your humanity. All right. So God gives us these gifts with the intention, not just of justifying us as a like one-time deal, like, hey, you did it, kudos, back pats. But in the sense that God actually makes it such that our humanity is conformed to his divinity, like we become sharers in the divine nature. And God is so attentive to all the details of this transformation that he gives us different gifts that are specified to the different aspects of it. So he gives us grace, which is like the kind of big ticket item, which takes account of the whole person. And then he gives us virtues, which actually like get into the different nooks and crannies of the human life. So specifically like the human mind and heart and emotions, so as to empower them to act well and to do so consistently, to do so firmly, stably, and to do so freely, generously, such that each decision that you make isn't like oh my gosh, like blah, blah, blah. Like what's rule number 1? What's rule number 2? What's rule number 87? How do those apply in this situation? Okay, here we go. Agonizing choice number 6 of the day. No, but in the sense that like you're a virtuoso of human life, you have such a knack for your humanity and for the divine life in which you have been called to participate, that that you find in each decision a kind of opportunity for giving glory to God, for, kind of making manifest the salvation of souls. So virtues are habits of mind and heart, which make you good and make it so that you're able to act well, stably, permanently, and in a way that's easy, that's prompt, that's joyful, that's not like agonized and anguish, but that's genuinely free.
Nice. Time.
How we do?
That's pretty good. How we do? I think you had 5 more seconds there, but it was good.
Okay, so I've been playing with this idea, and I feel like you could maybe complete this illustration for me. Are you familiar with Super Mario Brothers?
I'm familiar with it. Yeah.
Okay.
Man, no Super Mario.
Could you teach me where virtues would be?
How to get to level 7?
Yes. No, where virtues would be in that Super Mario Brothers. So like, how like he gets the star, like, is that grace or is that virtue? Like what's going on? Do you know what I'm talking about?
So you're going to have to help me with details. I'm going to do this based off my memory of Super Mario Brothers. So it's going to be impressionistic. I actually heard that, I don't know if you've seen the movie, Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? Have you seen that movie? Okay. So there are like a lot of parallels between that movie and the Odyssey. There's like a Cyclops, there's like the Hades scene, there's blah, blah, blah. There's the sirens, but apparently the Coen brothers had never read the Odyssey. They just based their appropriation of the Odyssey off the like kind of generally culturally aware sense that they had of it. So what I'm going to do right now with Super Mario Brothers is like what the Coen brothers did with the Odyssey.
Nice.
So I remember that there are mushrooms, and I think that like mushrooms are the base layer. So like you need a mushroom in order to get big, and all your further powers are premised on the fact that you have one of those. Is it a mushroom? Is it a mushroom? That thing that you like jump, you hit that question mark box, a mushroom comes out, it starts like spinning in front of you, and then you get it, and then you
if you're little, it makes you big.
Yes.
Okay. So I think that's basically the life of sanctifying grace. All right. And then like further things. So when you're bigger and taller, you can jump higher from how I remember it. And as a result of which you can get to like higher tiers in the level that help you avoid a lot of the perils in the lower tiers of the level. So that's like the way that sanctifying grace gives you access to the supernatural order, which previously you couldn't even detect. You couldn't even see. So when an atheist is like, that's all nonsense. It's like, of course that's nonsense to you, because faith gives you a capacity to receive God's revelation of himself. And it opens up to you a world that previously you could not have even known to exist. You might have some like faint intimation of its existence. That's hard to say rapidly. I will now slow down. But now that you have faith, right, you see it for what it is because it's been revealed. And then with the virtues, I think that'd be like any power that Super Mario gets, which is premised on him being big. So I don't remember what he can do. Can he like
fireballs?
Fireballs.
Fireballs. Yeah.
Stars.
Fireballs.
Yeah.
Yeah. Stars, fireballs. I'm going to say that fireballs are like the virtues because they give you a power to operate. They're not just about toddling around and walking forward. They're about doing the things which help you to attain your end. And it's like a power that you have, a power that you retain. And then I would say that stars are like kind of moments in your life which are marked by the dominance of the gifts of the Holy Spirit. Because when you're rocking with a star, you're like more than Mario. You're operating on a super Marian plane. Oh my gosh, things are getting out of control.
Invulnerable, impervious to...
Yes. So it's like in the gifts of the Holy Spirit. Here's an image. There's a 17th century Dominican who says, picture you're on a boat trip. When you're working by the virtues, it's like you're pulling at the oars. When you work by the gifts of the Holy Spirit, it's like you're hoisting a sail, all right? And you're carried on by a divine breath. So with the gifts of the Holy Spirit, it's more God who is operating and you are receiving that operation. Whereas with the virtues, well, God gives the gift, it's you who are operating, albeit in a kind of more excellent way. So yeah, Super Mario Brothers, let's go.
Nice. I love the painting of like a collaboration with God though, too. And even the measurement of like, okay, so the virtues, you need like they're acts of the will, and there's virtues that live in the intellect and in the will. Is that correct?
Yep. And the emotions too.
Okay. Wow. All right. And they perfect all of those things. Is that correct?
Yep.
Virtues that live in the emotions, like that's something
so
that like your appetite, like your sense appetite. There's emotion, there's virtues in those.
Yeah. So sense appetite, emotions or passions, all name the same thing. And strictly speaking, you guys are right. The virtues aren't like in those things, right? They're in the soul. But what they do is they're especially focused on those things and they bring them up and into your rational graced life. So the classic examples of those are temperance, which concerns specifically the desires for food, drink, and sexual intercourse, right? But then other stuff like the internet. And then courage, which specifically concerns like battlefield courage or the type of bravery that you need to exhibit in the face of death. But it can also be other things that are challenging, like the prospect of going food shopping during the third week of the COVID pandemic. It's like, but do I have to? It seems like it'd be better if I didn't. Can I just order it to my door? But those inform our passions. They inform our sense appetite, but they live in the soul and they're in conversation with those things.
Am I allowed to ask my totally fun question? I'm
cool.
So excited.
Yes,
to ask
do it.
now. Okay. Cause we're starting to transition into like what these 4 cardinal virtues are. And so here's the task, Father Greg. So, we talked a little bit at the beginning time. One of the things that we love about Father Greg is that he has these Father Gregisms where on the spot, he comes up with, I'm totally building this up and putting a lot of pressure on you on purpose here, man. But I know that this is a special grace. This isn't you. So like I'm putting the pressure on the Holy Spirit. He can take it.
Yes.
To come with something. Oh yeah. Get a good stretch on, man. Come Holy Spirit. All right. So you're making a movie, man, a Marvel movie. Okay. And you have 4 superheroes. They're based on the 4 cardinal virtues. Okay. So you get to name these superheroes and you get to talk about what their superpowers are. You also get to talk about what
they look like.
Sure. And thank you, Aaron, for our visual people out there, what you look like. But you can also talk about like their vulnerabilities, their kryptonite. Like what is the opposing, what are the things that like wounds these superheroes?
I think we just inspired your next book, actually.
We're gonna write it right now. Okay. And I want a nickel every time you sell it too.
Perfect.
Royalties.
You're gonna have to give me a time limit, so that way I am circumscribed in bounds.
Okay.
So we could break it up into each of the virtues. Maybe temperance, go or whatever. If you want to.
Captain Temperance. Let's go.
Okay.
Captain Temperance.
Perfect.
Do you have a timer?
I'm kind of keeping this good.
Okay, here we go. I'm gonna try to keep this brief or else I'll just go too long because that is my characteristic failing. All right, so let's go bottom up.
Okay.
Let's say with respect to I'm just gonna like use the virtue and then come to the name at the end because I'm gonna fill out the picture and then his name is gonna present itself to me. So it's like, it's like mom goes to the hospital, she gives birth, she like calls the baby something. She's like, you're not a Liliana, you're a Cecilia, so you kind of recognize the child once the child is born.
Yes.
Shout out.
So
to
the thing,
niece.
the characteristic move of the temperance superhero is bridling. All right. So there's a kind of desire which can go to excess in the human heart. I mean, the big things are food, drink, and sexual intercourse, but that's true of a lot of human desires. When you think about it in a spiritual way, it's like pride, right? When you want more than you in fact merit, or when you want more than in fact reflects the truth of your life. So there's a kind of sobriety of spirit that comes with temperance, where you see, okay, this is who I am. This is what I am made for. And as a result of which, like, this is how I will struggle and strive. So I think that, like, in the superhero universe, this would be like the guy who kind of keeps home base and he equips all of the different people with their weapons, like, because he has a kind of cognizance of each of the persons on the team, and has a cognizance of their powers and how to accentuate their powers, but without, being given to excess. So it's like equip each of these movements in the way that's best suited to its strength, but without going beyond the bounds, right? So he's not giving superheroes the types of weapons that they can't handle. Like that scene from Men in Black when, Will Smith fires the cricket for the first time and he realizes that it's just not within his power to handle that gun. So I think about him as, what would you call that? The kind of sergeant at arms. Well, Matt, you would be much better at military analogies.
That's pretty good. Armory keeper. Yes.
Armory keeper. Okay.
Yeah.
So let's call this particular superhero. What is a good armorer? I'm thinking like, I'm going to pass on to the next one, and this one's going to actually dawn upon me.
All right.
Yeah.
Captain Armor.
Actually,
Captain something.
Captain Armor. Yeah, exactly. Arm and Hammer. That's it.
Arm and Hammer.
Yes.
Captain Arm and Hammer.
Yes.
All right. For temperance. Ding.
Yeah.
All right.
All these products will now be named off things having to do with baking soda. All right.
Just stepped up the challenge.
Mix them with vinegar. Exactly. It creates a volcano too.
The next one will have to do with mouthwash. So fortitude. The thing about fortitude is, all right, so I'm thinking of Band of Brothers. I'm thinking of Captain Spears. There's a kind of recognition in the courageous person that there's a thing that needs to be done. That thing makes me scared, but, mindful of the fact that I am scared, I need to do the job. All right. So there's this one scene where, Lieutenant Dyke is in charge during Operation Market Garden, and he keeps disappearing and the troops are losing confidence in him. And then it comes time for them to make a frontal assault on an enemy encampment or like a kind of enemy fortified position. And Dyke shows that he's absolutely worthless. So Winters is about to head in there, but then whoever the colonel is like, nope, you can't do that. You've been promoted. All right. So who are you going to send? So he pulls Spears off Dog Company, and Spears just launches in there, gets it done. And at a certain point, he runs through the enemy lines to link up with a separated, group of soldiers, and then runs back through enemy lines to reestablish connection. So the German soldiers all pause for a certain moment, and they're like, what is this guy doing? Because he's doing the thing which is demanded of him in the moment, mindful of mission readiness and mission success. And so he can undertake it. Or I think of Alex Honnold, this guy who free solos, and whatever, doctors have found that part of his brain is underdeveloped, and it happens to be a part of the brain which lights up with fear centers. It's like the amygdala or something like that.
Yes.
Heard of
so
this
that's
guy.
crazy. All right. But I think I don't know, I just had this experience. I was hiking and I went up the side of a mountain, which was pretty steep, and I had to calm my fears. I was getting to the top. And then as I was going down, I realized that going down is much more difficult than going up. So then I had to go down the other side of the mountain, which involved 2 hours of hilarious transit. So courage in the case of the superhero will mean giving everyone that, encouragement at the moment when they feel sad, overwhelmed, depressed. It's when the cold closes in around you and you're about to turn on your headlamp and you haven't yet made it to the place where you're hiking, and you're like, I think I want to curl up and die, or suck my thumb, or call my mom, or all of the above. Is there tomato soup involved? Because if so, I'm interested. And it's in that moment where the courageous man sings, the courageous man the courageous man finds it in himself to encourage himself and to encourage others, and to do so in a way that's not false or stupid or silly. It's just like, no, like it is for these moments that we were made, because it's these moments which stretch our human hearts to their limit and bring out those native resources that we otherwise leave untouched, which kind of rest dormant in our spirits. So I'd say, like, of the superheroes, this would be the more like kind of warrior poet type. So what did we say? Like Captain Arm and Hammer.
Yeah.
This one would be like Lieutenant Bagpipe, right? Because he's almost like foolish in the way in which he deals with the things that threaten his life, because he knows that were he to take them too seriously, they would cause him, great distress. And so he treats them with just enough levity to pursue the reasonable course, right?
That's
so
amazing.
He's wearing a silly kilt. Yeah.
And two things, wearing a silly kilt. Yeah. Which takes bravery in and of itself. There are two things that like really stood out were, I love that you took me back to Band of Brothers. It's like one of the greatest scenes. We could do a whole podcast on Band of Brothers. Anyways, but the where he is so bold, where Spears is so bold, and he makes the decision so quickly. He doesn't mull over it. He just goes, right? There's a boldness about it, which you see in the Saints, where they act so quickly, and you're just like, man, there's that. Are they being bold or are they being rash? It's like, no, they're just that in tune with what the good is, that they can just so instinctively pursue it and so instinctively see it in such great value that they're willing to have that sacrificial disposition towards it. So that's the one thing I've seen. But then also the way that kind of courage can even stupefy the people around you that are so lacking in that virtue. It just doesn't make sense. It looks almost like foolishness, but it's not. It's different.
But everyone's also secretly envying it.
Yeah.
They're like,
we can't kill this man. He must live.
I wish.
Yeah. And that's the thing. Like this is a stretch as far as Christian application goes, but Spears's insight is that he's already dead. Right. And, that's easy to say from a kind of spectatorial position. But when we apply that to the Christian life, I think we should have a similar sense of freedom. Insofar as we've been baptized, we're already dead. You've descended into the waters with Christ. You've given up the old man, right? You've risen forth from those waters, and you have breathed deeply of a new resurrected life. So like, what can the world take from you? What can it take from you? It can't take anything from you. You're already dead, right? So you can live with that kind of levity of spirit. Because it's like, yes, kingdoms may rise and fall, to quote, what was that guy's name? Tex from Mighty Ducks 2 says, when the roosters are the crowing and the cows are spinning circles in the pastures, ducks fly together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The great philosopher Tex from Mighty Ducks.
Yes. This is incognito. He's actually Lieutenant Bagpipe. So we've got Lieutenant Bagpipe for fortitude, Captain Arm and Hammer for temperance.
That's right. Okay, maybe we can rename them as the Arsenal and the Bagpiper. So we just give them quicker names.
Nice. I like it.
And then the Justice guy will be the Negotiator. All right. Okay. Because he negotiates among the members of the team, but he also negotiates with nefarious enemy parties. Because justice renders to the other what is due. All right. Which can be difficult to determine, because a lot of times it requires adjustment. Right. In the sense that, like, how do you distinguish among those who have and those who have not, given time, place, setting, circumstance, yada, yada. But there are different parts to justice. But basically the idea is that you've got the common good before your eyes, and you try to organize relationships, or you try to orient relationships such that they contribute to that common good. And sometimes it's a matter of like, all right, we need to settle the score. Sometimes it's a matter of like, all right, I need to distribute these goods. But at the end of the day, it's about the common good. And so the thing about, like the other virtues, the ones that we've covered so far, the Arsenal and the Bagpiper, is that they, through no fault of their own, they don't necessarily evaluate all the pertinent circumstances. They can't be, they can't be expected to do so. But justice is taking account of the other, right? Justice is very much minded towards the other. Justice has a kind of sensitivity for the other. It's not yet charity, right? So it's not yet a love the other with God's own love for the other, but it's a kind of sense that there's something there, right? There's something there that I can't dismiss. There's something there that I can't explain away. And to a certain extent, I have to bow before that. right? Because if I don't, if I make of this whole world a great big extension of my ego, then I will perish in a kind of solipsistic morass, which is a terrible prospect, right? So yeah, I would say that the negotiator is kind of like the go-between among the members of the team, but also between the team and then like the US government for whom they're on contract, because it's like, you can't just be a freelance superhero these days. It's just not possible. But then against, like with enemy parties. And so he's always talking sense, not so as to trick, deceive, fool, or otherwise, bewilder, but really so as to present before others the good that is theirs, the good that they could have. So yeah, the negotiator.
I like it.
Dig it.
All right.
I had a question, but then all of a sudden you said superceptive rasp or something like that. And I was just like,
ooh,
I don't think I know any of those syllables, let alone combined into the words.
Yeah. It's all right.
So I lost it, but that's great. You got the negotiator for justice.
Yeah, I'll atone for saying those words by hanging my connecting cord off my left ear. It gets reversed in this ear mirrors.
It's very just of you. Atonement.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Restoring the balance. Yes.
So the final one. Prudence.
Yes.
This is the one. Yeah. This song has been in our head all morning, but this is the one you wrote a book about.
I did.
But so this one, we actually, I think, should be the best superhero.
Yeah.
Thus far.
No pressure.
I think so. Yeah, I tend to think so. So I would say maybe we can call him the Trailblazer. Because he has a deep affection for Damian Lillard and Yusuf Nurkic. No, that's not the reason. Those are both members of the Trailblazers. For those of you listening at home who don't care about the NBA, which is probably something that I should cultivate. Because I get so bound up and then just really disappointed when the 76ers lose. But alas, and alas.
Just don't talk to my dad about it.
Oh gosh. Hey, the Bulls are decent this year.
He lets us know.
So what do I call him? I called him the Trailblazer. All right. So when they go about in their like their organized team unit, specifically when they're on the move and whatever vehicle they use, like he holds the reins. It's said of Prudence that it's the Charioteer of the Virtues, because Prudence is not just a go-between, but it can actually marshal the forces of all of the other virtues in order to train them on the end of mission success. All right. So like the appetites left to themselves are blind, right? All the appetite knows is that it wants and that it wants more. Like, the last time you saw an open bag of Sour Patch Kids, you weren't thinking like, you know what? I really like the red ones, but I usually feel a little silly after 7. So maybe I will apportion myself 5 just so that I have a little bit of margin for error, because you never know, right? No, like the last time I saw an open bag of Sour Patch Kids, I was like, what if I ate all of these twice? Actually, what I ate all of them 6 times, right? So the desires are just, they're incredible. They just can't be stopped. And it's good that they can't be stopped because they afford us great moral energy, right? If we didn't have strong desires, then we wouldn't really have the energy to do anything. It'd be like, hey, do you want to go out for a jog? And be like, what if we, binge watched a Netflix series like yesterday? I'd be like, that's a great idea. Do we have to push next episode? It's like, no, the TV does it for us. Oh, perfect. Because I was going to be exhausted at the prospect of pushing next episode. That would have been too much. So the desires it's good that they have all of this moral energy because they drive us on to things that are big and bold and beautiful, but they do so somewhat unscrupulously. They're just like climb every mountain and ford every stream and quote further lyrics from The Sound of Music.
Till you find your dream.
That's it. Amen.
Hey, Captain Von Trapp over here. Seventh grade, baby.
Dude, respect. I loved you in West Side Story. You were a heck of a rip.
Thank you.
Have you seen the new one, by the way? Is it worth
retirement? My mom Shannon was telling me, my sister, Shannon was telling me about it. She said it was pretty good. Spielberg directed it.
Okay. Hey, that's not nothing. Maybe there are animatronic dinosaurs who show up halfway.
Well, what I like about that is they don't put there's no like big names in it. So you just know that they probably recruited based on talent for like I think it's more of a theater style acting. So
I've noticed that like theater people are more discerning when it comes to who you cast for musical theater movies. Because like, if you ask most people like, hey, do you like the new Les Mis, whatever, 2017? People are like, yeah, it was great. I mean,
Russell Crowe's
voice is a little bit brutal, you know, but then,
Yes.
but then musical theater types are like, there is a whole world of talented people out there.
Yes.
Why didn't you cast them for the roles? And
I
it's
know.
like, yeah, that's a decent point. It gets to a fever pitch with La La Land. It's like, Ryan Gosling, Emma Stone. Are we
Yes.
serious right now?
Yes.
And us non-professionals are like, but they're so charming.
Both my celebrity crushes.
Yes. Equally. Mine too.
Yeah,
we made a pact. Emma Stone showed up at the house, said, run away with me. I have Aaron's full permission.
Mm-hmm.
Reciprocated only for Ryan Gosling.
Yes.
Both who are not listening to this podcast.
They could.
But if they are.
One day they will have a
they
knack
are
desire for Sour Patch Kids and Prudence.
So Prudence is the vision of the appetites. It's the balance of the appetites. It's the order among the appetites. It's like the family team meeting, which brings all the appetites under the same roof and says like, all right, kids, what did you say you were going to do this month? Because I'm going to make you cancel half of it because I want you at home eating family meals with me. It's like, but dad, she's like, you just call me butt dad. So superhero for Prudence is butt dad. Just kidding. For that reason, I think the Prudence is, I get jazzed about it because it's the virtue which puts you in the driver's seat. It's the virtue which is the protagonist of the moral life, or it makes you to be the protagonist of your moral life. Because if we're just like lost in desire, we're going to be whatever, shipwrecked, storm tossed, however you describe it. But if prudence comes to a place of prominence and importance in our lives, then we become real agents. We become real dramatis persona. Like it's like a real musical theater, and we have real singing and dancing ability rather than just being like, you know, like what are things that Russell Crowe sings, which are beautiful? Stars in their multitude. Yeah, it's not like that. Okay.
I think Michael Caine in A Christmas Carol with the Muppets.
Yeah.
Didn't sing, but he spoke sung.
Oh no.
Michael Caine.
I hate it when songs have speak singing in them.
Well, then you'll love William Shatner's album. I'll tell you what.
Is it good?
Man,
is it good?
Jamming. It's top of the charts on iTunes. Babe, what do you got on questions?
So no, Trailblazer. I like it. So is he wearing a basketball uniform?
Ooh, great question. No, but it is like white, red, and black as an homage, right?
Nice.
I think the most prominent feature of it is the goggles, which increase his eyesight to that of an eagle, so as to convey the providence and foresight which he exhibits in his prudential role.
Nice.
There's something I see that's a problem that we deal with a lot when we're coaching, and it's when our clients are giving over their freedom to something else, to some circumstance. So I'm not free because of this. And I hear when you're talking about prudence, it's one of those virtues that starts to give them back their freedom. I haven't really made the full connection here, but am I on the right track? Can you build
remind
upon
them
this?
of their freedom?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, for sure. I think like freedom is the fruit of a virtuous life, right? So think about the great athlete or the great musician or the great craftsman. At the beginning, you know, they've got options, right? They're free to choose among things. All right, you're LeBron James, you're 13 years old, you're about ready to go to St. Vincent St. Mary's in North Akron, Ohio, right? And you live in a rough neighborhood, right? Your dad's not there, your mom's doing her darndest, strong woman, right? But I suspect that as like a tall, popular, young Black male in Akron, you have temptations, right? So you got freedom, right? But a lot of those free choices which you could exercise would cause you bondage, slavery, right? But like as you develop your talent, turns out you're an excellent football player and an excellent basketball player. And as it becomes clear to you, to the basketball world, to NBA scouts that you're really good, in a certain sense, you kind of lose some of those options because as you hit the gym more and more, you're not going to have the opportunity to take a wayward course because you're becoming more and more wed to the craft, which is yours. And as you have a more keen sense for the future, which you could stand to gain by developing this talent, you become more espoused to the ideal. So you have fewer options, as it were, but you're more free, right? Because think about LeBron James when he plays point forward. I mean, it revolutionized, well, there are different times in his career where he played point forward, but you put the ball in LeBron James's hand and it goes well. because he attracts defenses, and then he has the kind of court vision where he can find Kevin Love for a corner three, or he can find, like Kyrie Irving, who's cutting, to harken back to the Cleveland Cavaliers days. So because he has interiorized the rudiments, because he has interiorized the basics and mastered them with such incredible skill, he's able to, extemporize. He's able to kind of improv in the course of a basketball game. So he's not going through like, all right, I am dribbling the basketball. The first step will be to look left. The second step will be to look right. No, he doesn't have to go through steps, because he actually inhabits the virtuous life in such an intimate way, right? And we're talking about the virtues of basketball here. It's not to say anything about his life beyond basketball, which I don't know anything about. Although he keeps it pretty low drama, which I respect. Very present to his wife, very present to his kids. I respect that. So because he has grown in these virtues, he's now able to express a kind of freedom, right? The freedom of the chase down block, the freedom of the pull up three from 35 feet out, the freedom of, like a full court pass, which no one else saw because he didn't have the vision for it. So I think that, yes, when you live the virtuous life, you gain a freedom which you didn't know was available to you, because you've been spending all of your time just chugging through steps. When it turns out life it's not about chugging through steps. Life is about, like gaining a knack for your humanity and then living it. Yeah.
I love the name of your book. And it's Prudence, Choose Confidently, Live Boldly. As being a coach, choosing, like making decisions is usually a really hard thing that people don't, it is a skill to develop. And obviously prudence is one of these things. What I have found in coaching people is that, I think people will think I need to know more or have more information in order to make this decision. And I'm wondering, what would you say to that? And if there is a limit to that, like kind of like how much is the right amount of information?
Yeah. Is there a point of diminishing returns on information, and how do we know when we're there?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a great question. So I think you've got two extremes. You've got the just do it approach, which just doesn't entertain reasons and just goes forward with it. And those people usually say offensive things on television. And then you've got the analysis of paralysis approach, where it's like you're constantly revisiting a decision for fear of what might arise were you not to have foreseen a consequence or a circumstance. And I think that what we do shoots the gap, because on the one hand, we're responsible for living virtuously. Like that's what we're responsible for. We're not responsible for knowing everything there is to be known, because we're human beings, because that's just not part of the plan. It's not baked into our nature. It's just not possible. So we are by nature on the way, for one, and also fallible. So when it comes to a lot of the decisions that we're making decisions about things that could be this way or could be that way, and also could change in the midst of the decision itself. So it's like, how are you going to nail that down? You're not, right? Because it doesn't stand to be nailed down. So if we approach it as if it could be nailed down, we introduce a false note into the discernment and actually put more pressure on ourselves to generate a certainty which actually isn't available to us. So I think that what we're responsible for is knowing well, right? That's it, know well. And that's true of you, given who you are, like how you were raised, where you're from, what responsibilities you have in life, what state you've embraced, like all of that contributes to it. Like as a husband and a father, as a wife and a mother, you're not responsible for dedicating X number of hours of research in order to make whatever Y decision in anticipation of it, if those hours don't exist in your day, given your work commitments, your family commitments, your otherwise commitments. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's that
piece is so helpful.
Yeah. So your decisions are framed by your real life, which is hard to nail down. But I think that there should be a kind of freedom in exercising your agency or exercising your decision-making capacity, with the recognition that I'm not responsible for optimizing or maximizing consequences. I am responsible for living well, with an eye towards living yet better, as God give me grace to do.
That's amazing. And that piece, and I've heard you say it on Godsplaining before, and just in conversations about what is proper to the nature of human persons. Specifically, I think, I don't know if you pulled it from, or we talked to you on this at some point in the past, when God says, when Jesus says, be perfect as your heavenly Father is perfect, right? It's calling not a divine perfection upon us, because it's not proper to our nature, but rather that human perfection. And so often just defining what it means to be human and perfectly human to our clients is something that's incredibly liberating to them. It's permission to be on the way and not finished, and to not know, and to have that uncertainty, which is actually proper to our nature. So it gives permission for them to just be right where they are and rest in that and not resist it. So much of the pain, the unnecessary pain we find, comes from when they resist that reality, that circumstance about who we are.
Yeah, no, for sure. Only the truth has grace, right? So if the truth of the matter is X, we only get grace by embracing X. I mean, that's the least sexy way to describe it. But all right, if your life is a hot mess, right, and it's going to take time for you to heal and for you to grow, okay, that is your grace-bearing reality. You don't get grace by pretending not to need healing or not to need growing. You get grace by admitting it, kind of simply before the Lord. It doesn't have to be like every person you meet along the street is like, I stand in need of healing and growing. It's like, no kidding. Okay.
Yeah.
You don't have to be too terribly forward about it. You can just be honest in the context of your life with the Lord, your life with your family, your life with your friends, and the way that you demand of yourself. Because I think a lot of times the reason that we're so disappointed with ourselves and with our decisions is because we expect of ourselves something inhumane, something that doesn't actually correspond to my humanity in this time, in this place, in this circumstance. And it's just like, Gregory, why would you expect yourself to do anything but foolishly? Because you're a fool. You're a grand fool. You are Prince of Fools. So yes, you're a fool, but you stand under the mercy of God. And that's enough for today. So delish.
That acceptance piece, I think, is big. There's a saying that says when you fight with reality, you lose, but you only lose 100% of the time.
Oh gosh.
So, I mean, you could put a lot of effort forth, but there's just so much unnecessary pain.
That one involved. Where I wasn't expecting it to go. It's very clever. But I was like, awesome. There's
there's no hope. You lose 100% of the time.
Which is proper to the nature of reality.
Yes, but that acceptance, like to actually just lean into that acceptance of where you're at, is huge. And it's actually freedom. Like, it's liberating in that sense, because they're like, all right, here's where we start. Lord, I need you. Yeah.
Beautiful.
So a lot of people have like questions about this. I love the subtitle of this book, where it's Choose Confidently and Live Boldly. And I want to, when it comes to making a decision about your life and maybe a job change or moving somewhere, or like, I want to say an everyday decision, even though Prudence obviously has something to do with that. But when it comes to making like a bigger decision, which you're probably so sick of people asking you this question, like discernment questions. Okay.
No.
How
they don't stop though.
Where does personal desire come into play in the decision-making role? And
you like that one.
And bringing prudence into it. Yeah. Go.
Yeah. This is, all right, I'm going to limit myself to 2 minutes and 24 seconds. Basically, God created you because he thought you might like it. God created you so that you would have the opportunity of partaking in his divine life. So you are not his, like slave. You don't supply for any lack or need in the Godhead. You are an expression of his love, intended to return to him in love. All right. So God is going to communicate his plan for your flourishing in intelligible terms, because, like, it doesn't make any sense that God would create you and then obscure from you the way that you return to that love, because that is the very reason for which he made you. Mind you, we sinned, we've complicated it, and as a result of which it is now more difficult, but it remains possible by virtue of the grace which our Lord Jesus Christ gives. So then, how do we detect that? Well, we can think about our recreation in grace as patterned on our creation, right, in nature. So the plan was good. We ruined it. God just re-promulgates the plan in a new and yet more excellent way. So when blah, 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 parentheses, just keep going, Gregory. So our Lord Jesus Christ is, as it were, the plan of God. He's the word, right? He's the image. He is the kind of prism through which the Father projects his glorious designs. And so when it came time for one of the persons of the most blessed Trinity to take human flesh, it's most fitting that it be the Son, because he who is the plan can bring about this new plan, can bring about this redeemed plan. And then when it comes to us, like, how does the plan register in us? Well, like we've said, the Lord makes us on the way. We're creatures on the way, and our whole being's tendency is on the way. What does it mean for us to feel that in the marrow of our bones? It's at the level of desire, right? So desire conducts us along the way. Desire is the motor which moves us along the way. Do our desires stand in need of healing and growing? Absolutely. So I think that we kind of come to trust our desires, or we come to discover our desires, or we come to unearth our desires. We come to empower and embolden our desires over the course of that time, over the course of that journey. So I think when people are making decisions, my counsel is, all right, are making good use of the sacraments, right? Are you going to mass in addition to Sunday mass here and there because you want to express to the Lord a token of your friendship? Are you making good use of the sacrament of confession? I think you should probably be going once a month, depending on the person, maybe more frequently or less frequently. Do you have a dog? If you have a dog, could you currently grab the dog? Just kidding, but seriously. All right, like, do you have a habit of daily prayer? If so, like, is that something that's bread and butter for you? Or is it kind of vacillating? Okay, do you have good Christian friendships? Do you have a little bit of penance going on? Do you have some service? Do you have study of the faith? Because these things are going to work that recreation and grace in your life. And in the process, they're going to heal and elevate your desires such that you can, fall in line with those desires more readily. So I think my first counsel is, seek the Lord while he may be found. And then my second counsel is, what do you want? Like, what do you love? So I hold for a pretty significant, importance of desire and discernment. That's all within the context of, God's revelation and grace and the way in which his law gives concrete shape to it. But yeah, I think that you have to attribute importance to desire, or else we become like very strange robots.
Love it.
Do you hear that? There's like some big truck outside. So no, okay.
There's a lot of construction going on outside of our house, and so it's lunchtime, and the delivery vehicle's bringing some snacks.
Based off of that, what you just said, how essential is it for people to know what they desire in order to make a prudent decision?
I think it's really important.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of people have a sense of what holy people desire, and then they convince themselves that they want that or that they desire that. But I don't think that bears grace, right? I think that's good to kind of inform your Christian life. But for instance, like, I don't think that if you don't like the Liturgy of the Hours, just because religious pray the Liturgy of the Hours, I don't think that means that everyone under the sun should pray the Liturgy of the Hours every day. All right. I think it's a cool thing that we recommend. But I think that you just kind of go down what the church counsels and you weigh them against your experience. Like, you might be a Divine Mercy Chaplet person more than a Rosary person. That's fine. Oh, but Father Gregory, there's an indulgence attached to praying the Rosary in a communal context or in a public church or oratory, whereas that same indulgence is not attached to the recitation of the Divine Mercy Chaplet. All right, that's cool. All right, that informs your practice as an individual, as a family, or whatever. But like, what if you're Polish? Like, what if you have a special devotion to Saint Faustina? What if like, you find these particular times especially devastating, and you want to practice some devotion which makes you feel closer to Ukraine? Say the Divine Mercy Chaplet, right? You don't have to just make all of your decision based on objective importance as they pertain kind of in the ether, right? It has to be appropriated. And I think the desire is an integral feature of our appropriating what the church proposes for our sanctification. Now, there's certain things it's like, well, like Sunday Mass really doesn't jive with me. It's like tough. Tough is actually half of what I meant to say, but I left the latter half off. Right. So you go and then your heart gets shaped to the objective, like, teaching of the church, to the objective good that the church sets forward. So we are informed by the law. This isn't just like a big libertine exercise where I can do whatever flowy thing that I feel, suits me at the moment. But I think that there has to be a place for subjective appropriation of the goods that are at stake.
Yeah. And this is where those people perhaps listening even right now that do not feel this real strong desire to go to mass, or maybe it ebbs and it flows. We know that desire is one of those. It's an emotion. It's an appetite, right? And from when it's stemming from some sort of belief or understanding or perception as to what a good is, what your greatest good is. And so we like to encourage those people that if you don't really have a desire for the mass, or you don't have a desire for a daily prayer life, or even to go to confession on a regular basis, yes, there is certainly merit in doing those things out of obedience alone and just the efficaciousness of the sacramental life of grace certainly. And we're not meant to just stay there and act solely out of obedience, but really there's an invitation here to get very curious as to why there's that desire to do something opposite of what the Lord is telling us is for our greatest good. Where's that coming from? And so often people don't do that work. And so that desire, and usually when they do that work, they uncover some sort of a lie about God or a lie about themselves or some sort of false belief that's there a lot of the time, or there's a spiritual battle that they're not undertaking and they're not bringing Christ into. And so that kind of remains, and then they succumb to just window dressing or whitewashing exteriorly, so it looks very pious in their actions. But meanwhile, there's a whole metanoia that hasn't taken place yet. There's a whole healing and conversion that on a deeper level is left unfinished. And it still has that trajectory away from the greatest good. It's still a perception that something that, like not going to mass in this case, watching the football game instead, to be very cliche, is in keeping. There's a belief that that's your greatest good. I think it's so important to start with that.
Well, and to be clear, we still tell people to go to mass.
100%. Yeah.
With your will. You got to choose that with your will, but like to also get curious as to why. And it could just be like, you have young kids and it's hard on Sunday morning. I saw this meme the other day. It was like, whoever wrote Easy Like Sunday Morning, which was Lionel Richie, I believe, does not get their kids ready for mass on Sunday morning, which was funny. But yeah, to get curious about why that desire is in need of ordering, I guess, towards your greatest good. Yeah. Yeah.
And like, when confronting these questions, I think it's helpful not to over spiritualize. It's just, it can be really, well, speak clearly, Gregory. Like just start small, or just start modest in your proposal. It's like, I don't really want to go to mass. It's like, why? Okay, I'm tired. Why? It's like, I don't sleep that much. Why? Well, I stay up late. Why? Well, I like watch movies. Why? Well, because my days are long and I feel like I need to unwind at the end of the day. It's like, why? Well, because I don't find my work especially rewarding. Okay, why? Well, because I'm maybe tired and I find it to be drudgery. It's like, okay, all right, we're starting to connect the dots a little bit. What if we just made like a kind of resolution, as it were, to shoot to get 30 more minutes of sleep each night, or to like kind of hard cap content consumption, so that way you're a little less anxious when you go to bed, fall asleep easier, rest better, etc. It's like, all right, will that change overnight? No, but is it something that I'm glad that I have a deeper cognizance of? Yeah, or consciousness of. Yeah. So like, I think like sleep a little bit more can be a key to opening previously untapped desires, or previously complicated desires, to kind of unriddling them a bit. Things like that. I think those are good kind of patterns of self-reflection.
Yeah. I love the self-reflection piece. I think it's big, especially when you're trying to change habits, to not expect perfection, right? When you're changing habits, but to say like, it's not like it's the rule that you will be looking back and reflecting on why you did that.
Yeah. Being in touch with the why.
Yeah.
Being in touch with the why, but also like what I found very helpful in my own life and in our clients' lives is to look at the current habit that they don't want anymore and start to really dig into all the reasons why they really don't want it anymore. And all the real consequences, and being able to really build a case, because that intellect is so much like a lawyer a lot of the time, where it's just weighing out the best options and being able to present all the evidence to each side. Because the evidence, because we're created for the good, like the evidence usually makes the decision for us, and it reduces everything down to a much simpler decision, I find.
Yeah.
Father Greg,
I want to go back to your book.
Let's do it.
The second part of the subtitle is live boldly. Like most people, when they think of prudence, they're like thinking of this prude sitting in the corner, being very cautious and boring. So why did you choose that second part of your subtitle?
Basically because prudence is about action. Again, not blind action or not precipitous action, but, measured, reasonable action, but action, right? So our lives are not perfected just in the thinking of things. They're also perfected in the doing of things. And yeah, and I think that we often lose sight of the fact that prudence is for just that purpose. So we've got other virtues which help us to think about things, but it's true of prudence, or it's uniquely true of prudence, that it helps us really for the doing of things. So St. Thomas says there are three main stages to a prudent act. You take counsel, you make a judgment, and then you command it, which is to say you see it through. And he says this last stage, command, is most characteristic of prudence, such that he'll say prudence is just the virtue which commands. So I think, there are many of us seek the kind of, I don't know if you'd call it resolution, or seek the kind of life consistency that can make decisions and see them through, because it's difficult, it's taxing. And prudence is the virtue which inspires us in just such a pursuit. So there's a kind of boldness to that, not in the sense that like prudence means wearing a squirrel suit and base jumping off the face of El Capitan, but in the sense that like prudence sets out in a way that you might find initially to be a little bit unnerving, because we're just a lot more used to snuggling under our duvets in the warmth of, what was it? A slow Sunday morning, Lionel Richie style.
Easy
Prudence
like
is like
Sunday morning.
easy like Sunday morning. Thank you. Thank you.
Like there's like a commitment, and it's just like, we will follow through. We will do this. So it does marry the intellect and the will, right?
Yeah.
Virtue in that sense.
Yeah. Like the French word for a commitment is like engagement, an engagement. And I think that the way that we think about it in English is like, I have an engagement. You might say that a little bit like, oh, I already have a speaking engagement, or I have a something engagement. But like I engage, it communicates something that we've lost with the word commitment, because we use the word commitment like a kind of passive noun. Like a commitment is something that you find kind of laying on the ground and you pick up and you just put it on your calendar. Whereas an engagement is like, whoa, that places a claim on my humanity. I feel myself drawn into whatever that thing is. It's more personalistic. I think it's more existential. And I think that, prudence, we have to reclaim something of that's at work in the virtue of prudence.
That's so cool.
Beautiful.
I love that engagement.
So prudence, choose confidently, live boldly.
Yeah. Where can they find it?
Yeah.
The book.
And who are the people, like with that, I know we can find it at OSV is the publisher, correct?
Yep.
Our Sunday Visitor. So the person that could really benefit from this book, what might they be struggling with?
Yeah, I think the person that could really benefit from this book is the person who thinks that their real life is elsewhere. The person who thinks like, just as soon as then I'll be happy. Or once I'm through with, then I can really get started. Or, like present circumstances notwithstanding, there's still something out there for me. I think the purpose of the book is to say like, nope, real life is not elsewhere. Real life is here and now. And the meaning of my life is not to be discovered by going under, over, around the present difficulty, trial, temptation, sorrow, whatever, right? But to be discovered by going through it, right? By discovering the Lord who is present in it, in the context of a relationship, which begets a real happiness, a happiness which says, this is what I was born for, like this is where I fit. Even though I still find it hard, yet I know in the marrow of my bones that I've been given the grace, not merely to endure it, but to flourish in it. Right? Like, this is it. We were born for this age. There are no golden ages. There are no good times, no bad times. There are just perilous times. And we were the people who were made for this perilous time to make of it something glorious. So I think that the book's for that. That's the hope.
So like everyone.
Yeah. Everyone who can read a book in English.
Nice.
They get that really, but yeah, everyone who's like ready to get off the couch and stop binging Netflix. That's just, I mean, if that's you, if you just want to sit and continue to just allow next episode to play without pressing any buttons, then be that person. Don't even bother getting this book. Yeah. But if you want something more, I think this is good.
And you should judge yourself too. If you are that person sitting on the.
It's a good should.
No, and I will say too, like I kept thinking of what did it? I think I just lost it. Oh, just being like a spectator of your own life, like you're not standing on the sidelines of your own life anymore. Like you're ready to engage. You're ready to stop being bored with your life too. So we recommend this book. Haven't read it yet though. Cause is it available?
Out of great
it just got into the warehouse today.
Nice.
So if you send me, I just need your new mailing address and I will send you sweet free copies.
Ooh.
Yay. Yes. But go get on. How can they get it or get on the wait list or? Where can
pre-order?
Yeah, it's pre-order on Amazon.com. It's evilemempire.com/steal bookstore money. I think it's at. Yeah.
Yes.
Amazon.com.
That would be like the greatest irony, since your mom used to own a Catholic bookstore. It's like the opposite. It'd be like your villain.
Like,
villainous.
You're many years too late.
Yes. So
it would have turned into the Father Gregory bookstore.
Yeah, exactly.
Of Newtown.
So awesome. This is so, I just love connecting with you, reconnecting with
Father
you.
Greg, thank you so much. Thanks for being a spiritual father and being available, with random text messages about Thomistic questions that you don't have time for, and yet you still respond to. So appreciate it, man. Love you. Miss you
too.
Yeah. Thanks for joining.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me on. That reminds me, I should text you with my Swiss number. As I bop back and forth between the US and Switzerland, sometimes I just lose life in the shuffle. So I'll shoot you a text after
there
this.
was a little bit of a kind of a guilt trip that I was laying out there, because you haven't been 100% on my text message returns.
Well, if it doesn't start with +43, I think I know
slight manipulation, but I learned from the best.
Oh my gosh, got to.
Yeah. Yes.
Awesome. Hey folks, thanks so much. Check out Father Greg's book and tune in next week.
Ta-ta.